Okay, thank you. As said, I'm Sven Goethals within Tractebel. That's part of the ENGIE group. I'm a business development director and gas product director. Gas product director for the business line Energy, which is a transversal worldwide organization. Just some few words about Tractebel. Tractebel, being part of the ENGIE group, is a engineering consulting company focusing on energy, water and urban. And as such, we are active as well in gas, but also in power production, as in the renewables, and then also in all the new ecosystems that you may have in the world or in cities, where we try to combine and have a cross-sectoral view of all the energy uses. Just some key figures, around 5,000 employees and active in over 150 countries. So today we will focus mainly on Europe, but of course it should be said, if you look to the CCGT trends that we see worldwide, there are some differences. What we can see, for instance, in Europe, what you can see in the Middle East, what you can see in Asia, Southeast Asia, also what you can see in LATAM. And all of this is closely related to the increase of the growth of energy needs, where mainly in Europe we are rather at a stable situation. And linked to this, the upcoming of the renewable energies, where then on the other hand in Europe we are really perhaps one of the front runners. So when we look to the European energy market evolution, you have the increase in renewables massively, PV, wind, now also wind offshore. There's oversupply, and it's really it's a merchant market. There's not a lot of PPAs available, so it's really a highly competitive market. And what we see that energy prices are low. Also, if you look to the combined cycle power plants, operating hours, at least in last years, were lower, and this combination makes that revenues were decreasing. And as said by Christopher, just if you look, for instance, to the coal-fired power plants, we really are in a difficult situation. On the other hand, and there's an opportunity if you look to the gas power plants, that at least in the energy transition, as well in the new policy scenario as a sustainable development scenario, as given by the EAA, we can see that natural gas really plays an important role. While coal at least stays stable or should decrease, we can see that natural gas is on an increasing trend if we look to the capacity installed. On the other hand, if we look to the number of operating hours, it's the gas is here the red one. We see that although the number of capacity installed is increasing, the number of operating hours are stable or decreasing, which means that we will have much more, at least in the longer term, which means that we expect much more flexibility and much more seeing the gas plants as an element to stabilize the grid vis-à-vis the increasing number of renewable power. So in our analysis, we had made two differences. We first have a look on the rather short term, where we try to have a view on what we expect for 2025. And then in the second stage, we will look to what about 23 and beyond. What we expect for 2025 is that the high use that was experienced for the first time in 2019. If we look to the summer, if we look to the figures up to right now, we really see that the increase of CCGTs is increasing, and we expect that this will continue. Linked to the decrease of the coal-fired power plants, and also first and some nukes that may stop. What we see is that there were some big utilities that mothballed, that put temporarily their installations out of operation. We see now that some utilities are speaking about again demothballing, so to reuse assets. And what we also see is that some assets that are quite old, that they continue to be used, because there's still a market for them to be placed, although the number of operating hours are quite limited. But as those plants are fully depreciated, it's still worth of letting them continue to run. What we also see is that there is a tendency, at least in some markets, to see that there would be a capacity remuneration mechanism. And linked to this, we see some new assets, or some studies at least, for new assets rising. There are activities in Belgium pushed by the Belgian government. Also in France, we have one plan that really responds to that. But also in the Netherlands and Germany, we see this growing. And then on the CHP, and this is then the sector coupling, we expect that the CHP markets will remain present. Question is, will it grow or not? And this will a little bit be linked to how quickly we will have this coupling between the urban and the electricity sector. Would it be possible in regions that are traditionally not going for district heating and cooling? Will this be delivered by gas turbines through to CHP, or eventually even by biomass plants? But what will be their trends? So we see this a growth tendency for CO2 emissions reductions. But what's very important is in the past, perhaps you had some technologies, and there was a limited competition between technologies. Today, if we look to the new evolutions, there might be much more competition than between the different technologies, and every technology will need to justify economically also his role in the market. But in any case, what we will see, and this will be really the driver for all the CCGTs to be in the upcoming years to be competitive, is that they can respond to this flexibility needs and be really quickly reactive. What might be some levers for this flexibility? It will depend a little bit on okay, what is the local market, what is the grid. Some grids are perhaps more isolated, and if you introduce renewables, you might need more your combined cycle power plants or gas turbines to compensate this. But on the other hand, we might not forget every asset has his limitations, has also his lifetime, and by excessively being flexible, you might consume much quicker than foreseen your remaining lifetime. So we identified a certain number of possibilities that we see for combined cycles. I think for the people here in the audience, it's quite familiar. But what we will need to have is that every utility will need to look what's most adequate for his situation. So it's not necessarily so that a solution that might be good for Western Europe would be good for Southern Europe. So it will really depend on what is your status on the market, what is the position, and also what are the grid authorities requesting from you. So then if you look to 2030 and beyond, like I already said, any new CCGT, and we focused here on what about the new CCGTs, it will be very important for the CCGTs that come on the market in 23, and so that where finally we should do today the R&D, is that as these assets will have a lifetime of 50 to 20 years, it will be mandatory that they have a big role in contributing to the zero carbon environments. If we want to have in 2050 zero carbon, if we see now also the figures as given by the Commission, it might go even quicker than we expect. And so we cannot believe that any investor would be ready to make a huge investments in a power plant without being assured that, or having a minimum assurance that in the future or in the medium future, the assets will remain competitive. If you look, for instance, to all the big investments utilities did in coal-fired power plants, also ENGIE, and if you now look to how they are stranded or may become stranded, so I think it will be really important for the industry to demonstrate that you can play with your gas turbines a role. So we don't speak anymore about flexibility, but we speak about hyper-flexibility, hyper-efficiency, class H and beyond. Because why? Because you will compete again with other technologies. green fuel blending. We speak about hydrogen. What about biogas? Also syngas. In some case, we should have a gas turbine who is finally fuel gas agnostic. Whatever the gas is, it can be used. We'll also speak about carbon capture and storage, carbon capture utilization. And then why not should also see the gas turbine as a part of an energy system where you have integration with some energy storage. Why not batteries? Why not thermal storage? So as a conclusion, we should have CCGTs who are progressively and partially contributing to this decarbonization. Okay. How now make this existing CCGTs and cogen fleets more green? There are already some pilot projects with hydrogen combustion gas turbines. They are in development. There are also carbonization technologies for the industry and for thermal plants with CCS and CCU pilots that are in development. And we think this will only, so this together, this hydrogen with this carbon capture will probably boost and should definitely need, as it's still very young developments, will definitely need some support by Europe and other governments in the upcoming years to make sure that they can reach a level to be mature. What are now the activities of Tractebel in the field of future in this future combined cycle world? As most of these projects are with our group ENGIE and have a certain level of confidentiality, we cannot really enter into detail. But I think we thought it was at least useful to show what the utility has as activities. So we are studying what about hydrogen combustion in CCGTs, about the blending, but I think it is something quite general. We're also looking, we are having studies and doing due diligence for biogas and syngas production technologies through pyrolysis, for instance. As then in our traditional owns engineer or technical advice missions for the projects that are presently realized, it's really already emphasizing a lot on the flexibility, also operational flexibility, on low carbon emissions, but also the fuel flexibility. We are also massively involved in developing hydrogen generation projects. And then also we are thinking and having developments about this hybrid combined cycle solutions, coupling with batteries, coupling with thermal power plants, with thermal storage. So I would like to thank you. You have my coordinates. You have also the coordinates of our project manager, power, heat, and installation. And I think this is also something interesting to see. 2 years ago, Bernard Marier, who is responsible, was only project manager thermal power. Today we see, thermal power, it's interesting, but we should combine it. We combine it with heat, and also we combine it with installation. So it shows also that we are in a changing world, and go more and more for this coupling of sectors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sven, for highlighting the user community's needs and requirements going forward.